Have you ever given much thought to your child or grandchild's emotional, social, and spiritual milestones? I know we pay a lot of attention to where they are physically and intellectually, but my guest today, Sissy Goff, says tracking your child's emotional health is just as important. Welcome, Sissy.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be with you.
Now, why write this book?
Well, we have been counseling kids at a place called Daystar Counseling Ministries in Nashville. I've been here for 24 years, and I have seen more change in the last 3 to 5 years in kids than in all the years counseling before. And we have this growing concern about children's lack of development in healthy places, just like you said, emotionally, socially, spiritually, how we track milestones. You go to a pediatrician's office for well visits and they're tracking all these milestones they're supposed to be hitting, and we're not doing that in other ways.
So what is, you think, the number one mistake parents make in trying to understand their kids emotionally and spiritually?
Well, I would say we lean towards either under attending or over attending in today's time, where we're paying too much attention. And so it's creating this real sense of entitlement or even anxiety, which is considered a childhood epidemic in the world today. And so we're almost paying so much attention that they don't believe they're capable, or we're under attending where we're just not listening, we're not hearing them in ways that are really important. And so they're having to have bigger and bigger emotions and ways to try and get our attention in terms of acting out.
I love, you break down in the book just different aspects that I actually, to be honest, as a parent of 2 kids, I don't really think about, but as I was reading it, it really resonated with me. Emotional vocabulary is one of those milestones, teaching your kids feeling words. And I think, especially as a mom of boys, understanding feeling words is huge.
It's so important. And I think for boys in particular, so many of their primary emotions get funneled through anger. And they just don't know how to put the words to, I'm sad, I feel afraid, which is why we're big proponents of every home should have a feelings chart hanging up on the fridge where you and your child can go and point to whatever feeling so they can start to identify it so it doesn't come out sideways, which we know it happens for us as adults all the time.
Boys don't learn, this is another great point that I read in your book, boys don't learn well from being lectured at, they learn from experience. So, telling them, eat all that food on your plate, there are hungry kids in the world. Actually, you bring up a good point, maybe take them to a food bank and let them experience it. That's when it really sinks in for them, doesn't it?
Yes, yes. Kids are definitely experiential learners. They learn more from observation than from information. And we just talk at and talk to kids way too much. And I think we're so often waiting for that light bulb moment where they say, thanks, Mom, that was really helpful. And they're going to do that when they're 30. But in the meantime, we often keep repeating ourselves over and over and getting louder, and it doesn't mean they hear us any better.
And helping your child learn how to rate their feelings on a scale of 0 to 10. And most kids often think they're at a 10, it's the worst thing in the world, but giving them kind of context, okay, how are you feeling right now? And give them a gauge. How important is that?
I would say it's huge. And even culturally, we've had this whole 13 Reasons Why phenomenon that's been happening in the last month with kids. And I think even that is really reflective of how kids haven't learned perspective emotionally. Like you're saying, the things that happen to us on a daily basis, you think about a 1 to 10 scale emotionally, and they're 2s and 3s and 4s and 5s, and kids are going to 10 every time. And I work a lot with girls, so I've actually started calling it a drama-mometer in my office because that's what it feels like. And so to sit down with your child and say, let's talk about the scale and what would a 10 be for you in a moment where they're doing okay. And then that way, when they get in the car and they say, this is the worst day I've ever had in my whole life, which every child's going to say, then you can go back, listen with empathy first, and then say, tell me what number you think that was on your scale, where they have a sense of perspective automatically.
That's good advice. I love on page 73 in your book, you say boy culture values strength, dominance, violence, independence, and control. Boy culture doesn't value sacrifice, humility, honesty, or empathy. That is huge. I think about, how many times we're like, oh, that's what a boy would do, or stop, and we even relate to that with
Boys will be boys
as well, or boys will be boys. How important is it telling your child that it's okay to be empathetic, it's okay to have humility, especially for a boy?
Oh, I think not even just telling them it's okay, but taking really practical steps to build it in feels crucial. And that's so much of what this book is about, is saying these are the things that are going to impact your child as a future coworker, as a future spouse, as a future parent themselves. And empathy, we know, is crucial to really productive and healthy relationships. And so we have 10 at the end of each chapter, we have 10 practical things to do to build each one of these milestones in your child, empathy included.
I love how you have building blocks and then you also have stumbling blocks in your
Yes.
book as well as you go through the chapters.
Yes.
We only have a minute left, but this I think is one of the most important questions, especially for our show. On page 214, we're talking about spiritual milestones. The only thing that science has shown to reliably predict fulfillment, success, and thriving are a child's spiritual development. Huge, because we always kind of hear the opposite, especially in media, that there really isn't always a focus on spiritual development. But what we're hearing is that's a huge part of a child's development.
Oh, it's definitely a huge part of it, and a predictor even that's preventative in terms of depression, substance abuse. And you're right, we don't talk about that, but it's what we've known as believers all along, and it's fantastic that science is backing up now the data to say children desperately need a faith foundation, and not just from the church, but from home as well.
Thank you so much, Sissy, for your time today.
Thank you for having me.
Great takeaways. Stay with us. We'll be right back.